When you think of UFO sightings, the case of Brazil's Night of the UFOs is one of the most well-documented UFO sightings in history. Hundreds of military personnel and civilians witnessed lights in the sky from above and below on the ground. And then 2 years later, the most disturbing and unnatural death of a person would be recorded and covered up until 6 years later, when documents and pictures were then leaked to the press. And that pointed to technology that does not exist on this earth to kill a person. Like, this technology is beyond our comprehension. No human on this planet can perform the surgeries that were done to this particular victim. And this story is mentioned last, and I will let you know that I will be showing some photos from that. So viewer discretion is advised because it is very, very disturbing. And at the end of this video, I will let you know what to type into Google to be able to see the pictures. Like, I can't reiterate enough that the photos are pretty confronting. Hello and welcome back, or welcome to my channel. If you don't know what's going on here, I'm a horror artist and I like to draw what I talk about in the videos. Now, I like anything to do with conspiracies, UFOs, aliens, the paranormal, all that good stuff with true crimes. And I love to draw, so I combine them all into these videos to hopefully bring you a unique experience across all these genres. Also, I'll be doing 2 illustrations today in this video. So one of the illustrations is actually a bit of a version of the disturbing picture of the most gruesome and most painful death in history, which is the last story that I mentioned. That picture is my recreation, and obviously it's some exaggerated bits, but if you don't want to look at the photos, this will give you an idea of what happened to this body. And then the second illustration is of a particular alien that was mentioned as a description from 3 young girls that witnessed a particular event in Brazil. Now, if you like any of the art that you see in these videos, I do have prints available on my Redbubble store, so you can just head across there. The links are in the description below. Head across there, pick a print, size, you know, all that type of stuff, and you can have one of my disturbing prints if you like it. I'm not the most flavoursome artist, but if you like some disturbing shit, you might like purchasing one of my illustrations. With that being said, let's get on with the video and let's get on with the drawings. On the 19th of May 1986, UFOs were witnessed across Brazil. Now, you have to remember though, Brazil is a hotspot for UFOs, with sightings happening every day. But this event in 1986 was one for the records. UFOs were seen in the states of Sao Paulo, Rio de Janeiro, Minas Gerais, and Goiás. The Air Traffic Control Center radars were lit up with detections of unidentified objects in the skies. The Air Defense Operations Center deployed 5 Brazilian Air Force fighter jets to investigate the sightings. That night, only 21 UFOs were sighted on radar, but apparently there was much, much more than 21. Pilots flying the fighter jets had visuals in person of the UFOs, but radars were not picking them up, and vice versa. Objects couldn't be seen, but radar picked them up. Pilots said that the UFOs flew like nothing they had ever seen, moving in zigzags, floating, changing colours, and accelerating at unseen speeds on Earth. Now, the cool thing about Brazil is that UFOs are not treated as myths or palmed off. They embrace it with absolute respect and are very open about their encounters with UFOs, and people are not treated as crazy people when one is seen. The UFOs sighted that night were allegedly 100 meters in diameter. The first sighting was at 8:15 p.m. at São José dos Campos Airport, and 3 bright lights were situated over the airport. The lights were changed changing colours from red to yellow to green and orange. At around 9:40 p.m, several UFOs were detected around the airport. 2 jets were launched from Santa Cruz in pursuit of the objects, but while trying to reach them, the objects blinked red and white, accelerated, and the jets could not close the gap to catch them, even though the Mirage 3E interceptor jet moved at supersonic speeds. Another incident that happened in Brazil was the Virginia UFO incident. On the 20th of January 1996, 3 women aged 14, 16 and 21 saw a bipedal creature with a large bulbous head with veins and bumps on the skin with red eyes. The creature seemed to be unstable on its legs like it was sick or injured, but they didn't stick around to see what was going to happen as they were terrified and they thought they saw the devil. Now, prior to this, on the 13th of January 1996, US Air Force shot down a school bus-sized submarine-shaped UFO 10 kilometers from a town in southeast Brazil. The girls, who were 2 sisters and their friends, Liliane Silva, Vaquilia Silva and Katia Xavier, described the alien as small and crouched down initially by a wall in an abandoned housing lot, and it was frightened. There was also a weird stench, worse than sulfur, and it had oily skin and 3 lumps protruding from its head. Allegedly, the police and military captured 2 aliens, and one injured a police officer, Marcos Ceres, with a scratch which ended up killing him in the end. The aliens too died, and their bodies were taken away to an unknown location. One of the sheriffs who caught one of the aliens that day by the legs suffered paralysis in his hands that never went away. A few days prior to the incident, UFOs had been reported by the public, and on the day of the UFO crashing, as I mentioned before, there was a witness, Carlos de Souza. He described the UFO as floating but slowly losing altitude. The cigar-shaped UFO had smoke coming out of it. He ended up getting in his car and driving to the location and found the debris all over the ground. He got out of his car and the first thing he smelled was like ammonia, a rotten egg smell. It was very strong and it made his eyes water. He saw aluminium-like pieces on the ground, so he picked one of the pieces up and it felt very light. He crumpled it in his hand and it just bounced back to its original shape. Minutes after that, the military arrived and put blockades around to stop people from entering. They also threatened Carlos with guns and ordered him to leave. Now, allegedly, there is both video and photos of the creatures captured, and the video is 35 seconds long, but we really don't know if this truly exists. Now, the most disturbing death ever recorded comes out of Brazil and was about a body found in a Brazilian reservoir by a young boy on the 29th of September 1988. He was walking around Billings Reservoir near Sao Paulo looking for bugs. The boy shouldn't have been anywhere near the reservoir because it was a known location for gangs to dump bodies there of their murder victims, and a lot of people have also drowned there as well. Off in the distance, the young boy saw some vultures huddled around a lump on the ground, but they weren't pecking at it. He got closer and threw a rock at the birds to get them to move, and when they did, he could make out that it was a dead body, so he ran back to his local village to get help. The police were notified of the body and they turned up to the location to discover that it was a mutilated body of a middle-aged man. But this is where the story takes a terrifying turn, and not how you think it would turn out. It wasn't until 1994 when the documents were leaked along with the photos of what really happened to the man. His eyes were extracted, tongue removed, lips removed, eyelids removed, bottom jaw partially removed, left ear cut off, and his organs were removed. But what was strange was how this was all carried out. There was no blood, and the body had some weird, perfectly symmetrical holes in it. All mutilations performed were absolute surgical precision, and the device that was used was not something that anyone had on Earth at the time. It was beyond the surgical expertise of humans. He had 2 cookie-cutter-sized holes located in his chest on both sides above his nipples, and smaller ones under the armpits and leg creases. What shocked forensics the most was the body had organs removed: his liver, kidneys, large and small intestine, pancreas, colon, and scrotum were all gone, and the stomach and chest had sunken in as a result of missing these organs. But there was no incisions to get these out of the body. They determined that the organs were sucked out of the body via the holes in the chest by some sort of suction machine that no one on Earth has, that we know of. It's an unusual way to extract organs on Earth as well. None of the cuts on his body bled because his blood was sucked dry out of his body and wounds were cauterized, and decomposition and rigor mortis had not happened at the usual stage that his body was at for being there between 24 to 48 hours. Now, the story does get even worse. The way this man died was considered the most painful death ever recorded. No traces of anesthesia were detected in his body. It appeared that the man was fully conscious when this happened to him. Forensic noted 2 things to support this. One, when the cranial cavity was open, they found an unimpaired skull cap and signs of swelling on the brain without any head trauma whatsoever. Also, his vagus nerve was severely stimulated and not in a good way, which means that this logged in the vagus nerve a deeply traumatic event filled with the most excruciating pain anyone could feel. He died from extreme pain that brought on a cardiorespiratory arrest from having his organs sucked out from him while he was still alive. The man was a 53-year-old fisherman that visited the reservoir a lot and went missing 3 days before he was discovered. There were theories flying around about his death. One was that he was experimented on by aliens due to the precision in surgery done was nothing like we could do here on Earth. Also, cattle mutilations suffer the exact procedures and mutilations. Humans can't seem to do this kind of surgery, and especially in 1988. As you can see by the picture comparison, this is a cattle mutilation, and it was done on a human being as well. It seems that the same organs that go missing on the cattle mutilations went missing on this human being. Second theory is that he drowned in the reservoir. Apparently he suffered from epilepsy and he was an alcoholic. He was on meds for his epilepsy, so the theory is that he stripped down as his clothes were actually found on the opposite bank. He swam out to fish, suffered from a cardiac arrest and drowned, but this does not explain the mutilations. Even murder was flung around, but this didn't seem to fit a murder case. No murder victims were ever found like this. No other body that I've researched has ever been found like this again. Fish may have eaten his tongue, organs, etc., but this didn't seem likely as the holes were not gnawing marks from animals, and the vultures that surrounded him when the young boy found him didn't appear to want to touch the body at all. Why was this done to him, and why was he picked? Was he just in the wrong place at the wrong time? And all descriptions of the mutilations point to advanced technological surgery that humans can't perform. To me, this does sound like an alien experimentation. This case remains unsolved even to this day, and this incident happened in one of the locations where the night of the UFOs happened. So what I talked about today was all possibly linked to these events. Now, what do you think about these cases? And especially the last one, do you think that it's explained by natural occurring things, or do you really think that aliens did this? Let me know in the comment section below what you think happened and if any of these cases can be explained. And if you are brave enough to check out all of the pictures of the body from the reservoir that is circulating on the internet, Google Garaparinga reservoir mutilations, even though it was never in that reservoir that the body was found. it was falsely reported that it was in the Garaparinga. It was always in the Billings Reservoir. But I really do believe that there is more going on here than we are led to believe. Now, the illustrations that I decided to do for the video today was one of, recreating the Billings Reservoir body in just my version and my take on what I think actually happened. I know it sounds batshit crazy, but I personally think that this guy was experimented on by possibly extraterrestrials, and then his body was just dumped back here on Earth, like the cow mutilations. Like, if you compare the images of the cattle mutilations and this guy, it is eerily similar. So if you go and actually have a look at all the photos from this guy, like I said, it's very confronting. You will see the exact procedures was done on this guy. And I had all these like things coming into the body to like suggest that they were sucking out the organs via these big cables, and then you've got all these other things pulling his intestines out and, sucking the blood out of him, and then basically cleaning him up and dropping him back with absolutely no blood. And then the second illustration is of a recreation of the alien that was seen by those 3 girls in that housing lot. And yeah, that's basically all the illustrations are today, just very simple illustrations. But that is it from me. If you like this kind of content, like and subscribe. Dislike it, I couldn't care less what you do, because any interaction that you do pushes me up higher for the algorithm to find me and lets it find other people that might like my content, and they will subscribe and all sorts of good stuff. So it doesn't matter what you do. I don't care. Just keep doing what you're doing. And I am out of here, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye.